The night sky above Earth was calm, but far beyond the stars, something had gone terribly wrong. The human Armada, the greatest fleet ever built by mankind, had vanished without a single signal. No distress call. No wreckage. Nothing. One day they were reported on the edges of the Orion Arm, and the next day, gone. At first, many in the galaxy believed it was only human arrogance that failed them. Whispers spread across alien councils that humanity had finally pushed too far into the void. But the silence was too perfect. Fleets that size did not simply disappear. There were always signals, debris, or survivors. Here, there was nothing. The Galactic Alliance called an emergency assembly. Thousands of alien delegates filled the council hall, their voices rising in fear and confusion. Some believed humans had been destroyed by an unknown weapon. Others claimed it was a trick, that humanity had hidden its fleet for reasons no one could guess. But one fact burned through every mind in that chamber. The galaxy had never seen anything like this before. And yet, hidden deep inside the story, only a few remembered the truth of humanity's nature. For when humans moved, they moved with reason. They never built such armadas without purpose. The fact that the fleet had gone silent did not mean weakness. It meant something was happening, something larger than anyone dared to imagine. Back on Earth, rumors spread in quiet corners. Families of soldiers demanded answers. News channels speculated every hour. Some believed the fleet had gone to face an enemy beyond known space. Others whispered that the ships had been pulled into another dimension. The truth was hidden in the silence. Among the many who waited for news, there was a man named Admiral Kale Draven. He was one of the last commanders left on Earth, too old to lead into battle but sharp enough to know when something was wrong. He had trained some of the very captains who now lay missing in the dark. Sitting in his quiet office, Kale stared at the star map on his wall. He traced the path of the Armada with his finger and frowned. "They didn't vanish," he muttered. "They're waiting." But waiting for what? Across the galaxy, alien worlds began to shake. The absence of the human fleet was not comforting, it was terrifying. Humanity's ships had been the one force that kept predators away, the one power that even the strongest empires feared. The memory of Earth's wars and victories was carved into the minds of the galaxy. Now, with no fleet in sight, many races wondered if the balance of power was about to collapse. The Krovan Empire, a warlike race with burning red eyes and scaled skin, were the first to see opportunity. In their throne room, Emperor Sava hissed with pleasure. "The humans are gone. Their armada is dust. The galaxy belongs to us now." His generals cheered, but deep in their hearts, even they feared the words. Because they too remembered, humans did not die so quietly. On the peaceful world of Arivon, a council of scholars debated another theory. One of them, an old alien historian, stood and said, "Do you not remember their ancient stories? Humanity has a habit of disappearing before they strike hardest. This silence is not weakness. It is the storm before the fire." But the others only laughed at him. They wanted to believe the threat was gone. Back on Earth, Admiral Kale received a hidden message. It came not through the usual channels, but through an old human code, one forgotten by most alien listeners. The message was short, only 5 words long, but it froze his blood. "We go where they cannot." Kale rose from his chair, heart pounding. This was not defeat. This was strategy. The fleet was alive. Somewhere in the dark, humanity was preparing something so large that even the galaxy itself could not guess. And then came the first sign. Weeks later, on the edge of Alliance territory, a trade convoy vanished. The alien merchants reported a shadow before the signal cut off, a shadow shaped like a human warship. But the warship was wrong. Too large, too silent, too advanced. Whispers spread faster than light. The humans had returned. But if they had, why did they hide? Why did they strike in silence instead of marching openly? In the Galactic Council, panic grew. The aliens had once feared humanity's strength when it was visible. Now they feared humanity's silence even more. Because silence meant control. Silence meant choice. Silence meant that somewhere in the void, humanity was watching, waiting, and deciding the fate of the galaxy. And Admiral Kale, staring at the old message, knew the truth. The Armada had not vanished. It had gone where no other species dared to follow. The question that chilled every world was simple, yet terrifying. When they returned, whose side would they be on? The galaxy waited in silence, unaware that the greatest storm in history was already on its way. The galaxy could not sleep. Everywhere, from the great shining capitals to the smallest outposts, the same question echoed: where were the humans? The Galactic Alliance sent fleets to search the borders of known space. Patrols scouted the nebulae where the human ships were last seen. They found only empty space, as if the Armada had been erased from history. No trails of engines. No wreckage. Not even a floating piece of metal. It was as though the humans had walked off the map. The silence only fed the fear. Some species whispered that the humans had discovered a way to vanish into another dimension. Others believed they had built a hidden empire beyond the edge of the galaxy. But the most dangerous rumor was the one no one wanted to believe, that the Armada was not gone at all, it was simply watching. On the world of Taranvex, the Krovan Emperor Sava stood before his council once again. His crimson eyes burned with greed. "The humans are cowards," he hissed. "They fled the galaxy. While they hide, we will rise. Their colonies, their trade, their allies, all will belong to the Krovan Empire." The generals struck their spears against the ground, chanting for war. Already, Krovan ships were moving, pushing into smaller human colonies. Worlds that once thrived under human protection now stood alone. Without the Armada, they had no defense. But not every alien ruler was blind. On the crystal planet of Lysera, Queen Elira of the Lyrians called a secret meeting with her advisors. Her voice was calm, but her silver eyes showed unease. "I do not believe the humans are gone," she said softly. "This silence is deliberate. They wait for something." Her advisors argued, saying there was no proof, no signal, nothing but shadows. But Elira remembered the past. She remembered the stories of Earth's wars, how humanity always seemed weakest just before they struck with fury. "If the Armada returns," she whispered, "the galaxy will tremble." Meanwhile, far from the crowded council halls and thrones, Admiral Kale Draven worked in silence. The old human commander had not shared the coded message he received. He carried the words alone: "We go where they cannot." Every night he stared at those 5 words. What did they mean? Where had the Armada gone? And what had they found there? One evening, his answer arrived. A young officer from the communications branch came rushing into Kale's quarters, pale and sweating. "Admiral, you need to see this." A signal, old human code again. It came from deep space, far beyond Alliance borders. Kale opened the transmission. The image was blurry, distorted by distance, but clear enough to freeze the blood. A ship, massive, black as the void, drifted across the screen. Its design was unmistakable, human. But it was larger than any ship Kale had ever seen. Its hull carried no lights, no signals, no identification. It moved like a ghost through the stars. The officer whispered, "Sir, our fleet never built ships like this. What are we looking at?" Kale's eyes narrowed. Something new. Something the Armada has become. But before more could be seen, the signal cut out. No sender, no coordinates, nothing left but silence. Across the galaxy, other shadows appeared. Convoys went missing. Outposts reported strange readings, massive power surges that came and went in seconds. Some claimed they saw dark shapes in the stars, but when fleets arrived, the shapes were gone. The Alliance grew restless. "We cannot live in fear of phantoms," one alien delegate shouted. "If the humans are hiding, we must drag them into the light." But others trembled. They remembered humanity's wars. They remembered what happened to those who provoked Earth. And still, the Krovan Empire marched. Their fleets raided deeper into human space, burning colonies and enslaving survivors. The galaxy believed humanity had abandoned its own. But in the ashes of one destroyed colony, the Krovan invaders found something they did not expect. A message. It was carved into the walls of a ruined human command center, scorched but still readable. 4 words only. "We never left you." When Emperor Sava saw the report, his pride cracked for the first time. His generals whispered that the humans were not broken at all, they were hunting. And somewhere beyond the stars, hidden in the void, the Armada stirred. Their silence had been their shield. Their disappearance had been their weapon. The galaxy had believed humanity was gone. But humanity had only stepped into the dark, preparing for a war greater than anyone imagined. The question was no longer where are the humans? The question now was when will they strike? The galaxy held its breath. The galaxy was holding its breath, and yet the Krovan Empire did not slow its march. They smelled blood in the water. With the human armada missing, the Krovan fleets swept through weak systems, conquering and enslaving. World after world fell, and every victory fed their pride. But pride made them blind. On the burned colony of Arvan III, the Krovan soldiers celebrated, drinking in the glow of fires they themselves had set. They laughed at the weakness of humans, boasting that Earth was next. But in the shadows of the ruined command center, a faint light flickered. It was a beacon, hidden deep in the ground, transmitting in old human code. The Krovan never noticed. Far away, Admiral Kale Draven did. In his private quarters, the message blinked across his screen. "They see us. They are not ready." Kale leaned back, his jaw tight. He understood. The Armada was watching the Krovan, letting them overreach. Humanity was letting its enemies believe they had won. And then, when the time was right, they would strike. But Kale feared the price. Human colonies were burning while the Armada stayed hidden. Families were enslaved, children stolen, cities destroyed. Could Earth survive this waiting game? On Lysera, Queen Elira received her own sign. A shadow passed across her skies one evening, a shape so vast it blotted out the stars. Her guards panicked, scrambling ships into orbit. But the shadow never attacked. It drifted silently, leaving behind only a trail of static that fried every scanner. The Queen stood at her palace balcony, watching the sky. Her advisors begged her to call the Alliance, but she shook her head. No, that was not an enemy. That was a warning. The humans are near. The Alliance, however, was fracturing. In the Great Council chamber, alien delegates shouted over each other. Some demanded action against the Krovan, others demanded action against humanity. A few even suggested combining fleets to invade Earth, fearing the Armada's silence more than the Krovan's raids. "The humans abandoned us," one delegate screamed. "We owe them nothing." Another slammed the table. "Fools! If the Armada returns, they will burn us first for our betrayal. We must prepare defenses now." But no decision was reached. Fear had broken the unity of the Council. The galaxy was becoming a playground for war, and both predators and cowards filled the void left by human silence. Meanwhile, in the deep black beyond the edges of mapped space, the Armada moved. Not all at once, not in lines or formations. They moved like shadows, each fleet hidden in strange pockets of space. Places no other species dared to enter. Dead systems. Collapsing stars. Regions where navigation failed. But humans had found ways through. And they were building. Massive structures floated in silence. Shipyards hidden inside hollow asteroids, factories disguised as drifting wreckage, and training grounds buried on frozen moons. Here, humanity was not idle. Here, they prepared something greater than any war fleet ever imagined. Captain Rhea Solon, one of the young commanders of the Armada, stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Oblivion's Edge. She watched her crew work in silence, every officer moving with discipline. She thought of Earth, of the colonies now suffering under Krovan attacks. Every instinct in her screamed to fight. But her orders were clear. "Wait. Why do we hold back?" her first officer whispered. Our people are dying. Why not strike now? Rhea's eyes were cold. Because when we strike, it will not be to win a battle. It will be to end the war. Back in the Krovan capital, Emperor Sava felt untouchable. His fleets were unstoppable, his enemies scattered. He raised a clawed hand over the galactic map, imagining it painted in Krovan red. Yet, in his dreams, something disturbed him. A shadow. Always a shadow. The shape of human warships, larger than he had ever seen, looming in silence. He woke in sweat, his red eyes wide. "Why do they haunt me?" he growled. His advisors bowed low, too afraid to answer. The answer came days later. On the Krovan-occupied world of Vera, their soldiers marched through the streets, forcing human survivors into chains. Suddenly, the skies above them darkened. Not with clouds. Not with nightfall. But with the silhouette of a ship. It did not match any known human design. Its hull stretched like a black spear across the horizon, silent and still. The Krovan aimed their weapons at the sky, but no attack came. Instead, a single message rang out across every communicator, every channel, every mind that could hear. "We are watching." And then, as silently as it had appeared, the ship vanished into the void. For the first time, the Krovan soldiers felt fear. For the first time, the galaxy realized humanity had not disappeared. The Armada was still out there. And their silence was almost over. The galaxy was shaking. The appearance of a single human warship above Vera spread like fire through every star system. No one knew where it came from or where it vanished to, but the message it left, "We are watching," echoed in every council, every palace, every battlefield. The Krovan Empire laughed at first. Emperor Sava claimed it was a trick. "A single ghost ship cannot stop an empire," he told his generals. But in private, he did not sleep. He feared the shadows in the sky, the silence between the stars. On Earth, Admiral Kale Draven finally spoke to the leaders of the Alliance. Standing in the center of their shining council chamber, his voice was calm but heavy. "You think humanity has abandoned you," he said. "You think we are gone. You are wrong. The Armada is alive, and when it returns, every choice you made in our silence will be remembered." The aliens murmured, some angry, some afraid. One delegate stood and shouted, "If the Armada is alive, why do they hide while our people suffer? Why do they not face the Krovan now?" Kale's answer was cold. "Because humanity does not fight battles. Humanity ends wars." But his words did not bring comfort. They brought fear. Across the galaxy, small human colonies continued to fall. The Krovan enslaved thousands, building their empire on the ashes of human worlds. Still, the Armada did not strike. Still, the silence remained. And with every day that passed, the question grew louder. What are the humans waiting for? On the hidden flagship Oblivion's edge, Captain Rhea Solon stared at the stars. Her ship floated in a dead zone of space where no signals could travel, no scanners could see. Around her were dozens of other ships, each cloaked, each silent. And behind them, in the darkness, loomed something far greater, a structure the size of a moon. It was the Forge. Here, the Armada had built in secret for years. The Forge was not just a shipyard. It was a factory of war, a place where weapons no other species could dream of were being born. Some ships were massive, carrying weapons powerful enough to crack planets. Others were small, built for speed and stealth, able to cut through enemy fleets like shadows. Rhea stood with her officers inside the command dome of the Forge. "When do we strike?" one of them asked. "When the Krovan are certain of victory," Rhea replied. "When they believe the galaxy belongs to them. Then we will show them who it really belongs to." Back in the Krovan capital, Emperor Sava celebrated another conquest. His fleets had taken 7 more human colonies, his banners now stretched across regions once under Earth's protection. He stood before his soldiers and declared, "The humans are broken. Their Armada is nothing but ghosts. We are the rulers of the stars now." The crowd roared, but above their cheers, a faint vibration shook the sky. At first, they thought it was thunder. Then they saw it, burning across the horizon, streaking through the atmosphere. Not a fleet, not an invasion. Just a single object. It was a warning. The object struck the ground outside the Krovan capital with such force the entire city shook. When the dust cleared, the soldiers approached carefully. It was a piece of metal, scarred, black, but unmistakable. A human war banner. And carved into its surface were words in a language even the Krovan could read. "We never forgive. We never forget." Panic spread through the Krovan Empire. Rumors grew that human ships were everywhere, unseen. Krovan patrols reported hearing voices in the void, hearing human war songs through their radios even when no enemy was present. Some ships even fired on their own shadows, convinced they were being hunted. But the truth was worse. They were being hunted. Small Krovan fleets began to vanish, one by one. No distress calls. No wreckage. Just silence. At first the Emperor thought it was mechanical failure. But when he sent larger fleets to investigate, they too disappeared. It was the Armada. Testing its weapons. Tasting the fear. Meanwhile, the alliance fractured further. Some worlds begged humanity to return. Others plotted to betray them, fearing what their vengeance might bring. And in the middle of it all, Admiral Kale Draven watched, silent, waiting. He knew what was coming. He knew the Armada's patience had an end. One night, standing at his window, Kale whispered to himself, "They will come like a storm, and when they do, nothing will stop them." And somewhere beyond the edge of the galaxy, the forge burned with light as the Armada prepared to reveal itself. The silence was nearly over. The galaxy was no longer calm. The Krovan Empire grew stronger each day, but so did the whispers of fear. Entire fleets were vanishing in silence, outposts gone without a trace, and always the same question followed: was it the humans? Emperor Sava refused to believe it. He told his generals that the Armada was a myth, a ghost story created to scare them. But deep in his heart, he was afraid. The war banner that had fallen from the sky still burned in his mind. We never forgive. We never forget. And then, the first strike came. It began in the Krylos Belt, a region rich with ore and controlled by the Krovan. Hundreds of mining stations worked day and night, feeding the Empire's war machine. The Krovan believed the place safe, far from the front lines. But safety was an illusion. The attack was sudden. No warning. No signal. One moment the stations glowed with lights, and the next moment darkness swallowed them. Power grids shut down. Scanners failed. And from the void, shadows appeared, human ships, sleek and silent. The Armada had returned. Krovan defenses scrambled, sending gunships to fight. But the human ships were not the same as before. They moved faster, hit harder, and struck with weapons the Krovan had never seen. Blades of light tore through their armor. Silent drones slipped past their shields, exploding deep inside their engines. Within hours, the Krylos Belt was ashes. Not a single Krovan ship survived. The humans did not even stay to claim victory. They simply vanished back into the dark, leaving behind wreckage and terror. The galaxy exploded with panic. News of the attack spread faster than light. Every empire, every council, every trader whispered the same words: the Armada is back. On Lysera, Queen Elira stood before her people. "The humans have returned," she said. "But do not think they are saviors. They are fire. And fire burns everything it touches." In the Alliance Council, chaos erupted. Some demanded they join with humanity against the Krovan. Others feared that humanity would turn against them as well. "They waited too long," one delegate cried. "They let colonies fall, lives be destroyed. They are not allies. They are executioners." But Admiral Kale Draven knew better. He watched the footage of the Krylos attack in silence. The precision, the power, it was not random. It was strategy. "They are not striking the Krovan blindly," Kale said. "They are cutting off their strength piece by piece. When the time comes, the Krovan will have nothing left to fight with. Meanwhile, Captain Rhea Solon stood aboard the Oblivion's edge, her eyes on the burning remains of the Krylos belt. Her first officer whispered, "It has begun." "Yes," Rhea said coldly. "But this is only the beginning." Across the galaxy, the Krovan tried to answer. Emperor Sava ordered his fleets to strike back, to find and destroy the Armada. Hundreds of ships patrolled the stars, searching every corner of space. But every time they thought they had found the humans, they found only shadows. And then they would vanish. In the Vera system, a Krovan fleet of 50 warships chased what they believed was a small human patrol. But when they entered the system, their scanners failed. Their comms went silent. And one by one, their ships exploded, torn apart by weapons they could not see. When the smoke cleared, nothing was left but silence. The Krovan Empire was bleeding, and Emperor Sava's rage turned to fear. He slammed his clawed fist against his throne. "Find them," he roared. "Find the humans and tear them from the stars." But even as he shouted, the Armada moved deeper into his empire, striking at shipyards, convoys, and supply lines. The Krovan could not fight an enemy they could not see. And the message spread: humanity was not just back, they were stronger, faster, and more ruthless than ever before. In secret meetings, alien leaders asked themselves the question they feared most: when the Krovan fall, will the Armada stop? Or will they come for us next? The shadows of the Armada spread like a storm. And Admiral Kale, watching from Earth, whispered to himself, "The galaxy is about to learn what it means when humanity fights not for survival, but for vengeance." The storm had broken. The war had begun. The Krovan Empire was breaking. The first human strikes had seemed like shadows, like whispers of war. But now the Armada moved with fury. Shipyards burned. Convoys vanished. Whole fleets crumbled in silence. Every time the Krovan tried to respond, the humans were already gone, striking elsewhere, always one step ahead. The galaxy watched in awe and fear. Humanity had not only returned, they had returned with weapons no one could match. On Lysera, Queen Elira gathered her council. Her voice was heavy with warning. "The Krovan are falling," she said, "but do not think we are safe. The humans are not fighting for us. They are fighting for themselves. And when their war is finished, the galaxy will stand before them, trembling." Her words carried across the stars, and many rulers listened. Some prepared to bow before humanity when the war ended. Others whispered of alliances to resist them. But all agreed on one thing: the Armada was unstoppable. In the Krovan capital, Emperor Sava raged. His once proud fleets were shattered, his borders collapsing. He paced before his generals, his voice like fire. "They are ghosts," he snarled. "They strike and vanish, leaving us nothing. Are we the rulers of the galaxy, or frightened children?" But even his generals had no answer. Their fleets were bleeding, their people restless. Whispers of rebellion stirred within the empire. Sava's dream of galactic rule was turning into ash. And the Armada was not finished. On the flagship Oblivion's edge, Captain Rhea Solon stood before a massive star map glowing with red lights, every Krovan stronghold still standing. Her officers waited in silence. Rhea's eyes were cold as steel. "We no longer strike shadows," she said. "We break them openly. Tonight, the galaxy will see what it means when humanity unleashes its fire." The plan was bold. The Armada would not hide. They would strike directly at the Krovan's heart, the fortress system of Drovok, a cluster of 10 planets defended by the Empire's strongest fleets. No species had ever dared to attack it. But the Armada was not like any other species. When the human fleet arrived, it was not silent. It came like a storm, tearing open the night with fire. Thousands of ships, black and sharp, poured into Drovok space. Their engines burned white, their weapons blazing. The Krovan defenders roared into battle. Over 5,000 warships stood waiting, their weapons filling the void with light. The sky itself seemed to shatter as the two forces clashed. The Krovan fought with rage, but rage was not enough. Humanity fought with precision. Every strike was exact, every movement planned. Massive human warships unleashed beams that cut through cruisers like paper. Swarms of drones slipped past shields, tearing ships apart from within. The Krovan were powerful, but the Armada was relentless. Admiral Kale Draven watched the battle from Earth through delayed transmissions. His old heart pounded as he saw the firestorm unfold. He whispered, "This is not war. This is judgment." On the ground of Drovok's main planet, the Krovan citizens looked up in terror as the skies burned. Explosions lit the heavens, the sound of thunder echoing even through the vacuum of space. And then, for the first time in centuries, the unthinkable happened. Krovan ships began to flee. The Empire's strongest fortress was falling. Emperor Sava, watching from his throne, could no longer hide his fear. His claws trembled as reports came in. Entire fleets lost. Planets cut off. His empire was dying before his eyes. "No," he whispered. "This cannot be." But it was. For the Armada had returned not to fight battles, but to erase the Krovan Empire from the stars. And as the fortress of Drovok collapsed in fire, a message echoed across the galaxy once more. A human voice, cold and steady, speaking in every tongue. "We warned you. We watched you. Now we end you." Silence followed, and the galaxy trembled. The Krovan were not only losing, they were facing extinction. But in the shadows of the Alliance, some rulers whispered, "If the Armada can destroy the Krovan so easily, what will stop them from turning on us next?" The storm was far from over. The Krovan were breaking, yes. But the galaxy itself was about to face the greatest choice in its history. Because when the war ended, the question would remain, would humanity rule as protectors or conquerors? The Krovan Empire was burning. Their fortress worlds had fallen, their fleets were scattered, and their emperor sat on his throne like a broken shadow. Drovok, the heart of his empire, was gone, consumed by the fire of the human Armada. Across the galaxy, Krovan banners were torn down by their own people. Rebellions rose, and the once mighty empire cracked like glass. But the Armada did not stop. They moved through Krovan space like a storm of steel, crushing strongholds one by one. Wherever they passed, silence followed. Not silence of weakness, but silence of finality. The galaxy watched with awe, fear, and helplessness. For the first time in history, every species understood what it meant when humanity fought without restraint. On Earth, Admiral Kale Draven sat in silence before the glowing star map. Red lights, once marking Krovan worlds, faded one by one, replaced by empty black. He felt no joy, only a heavy weight. "They have become something greater," he whispered. "Something the galaxy may not be ready for." In the Alliance Council, chaos reigned. Some leaders cheered, believing the Krovan's end would bring peace. Others trembled, fearing humanity's power. One delegate shouted, "Do you not see? If the humans can erase the Krovan, they can erase us as well. We must prepare to defend ourselves." Another answered, "No, fools. If we defy them, we will share the Krovan's fate. We must kneel." But no decision was reached. The Council had no power. Humanity had taken the galaxy's fate into its own hands. On the flagship Oblivion's edge, Captain Rhea Solon stood with her officers as the final strike approached. The Armada's ships formed a wall of steel around the Krovan homeworld. The skies burned with fire, fleets clashing one last time. But the Krovan had no chance. Their emperor tried to speak to his people. His voice, once filled with rage, now shook with fear. "They will not take our world," he said. "We will fight until..." The transmission cut off in fire. Human warships broke the Krovan defenses, carving a path to the planet's surface. Yet when they reached the capital, they did not destroy it. They surrounded it, silent and still. From orbit, Rhea sent one final message. Her voice was clear, steady, and merciless. "This is humanity's judgment. You enslaved our colonies. You burned our people. You believed us gone. Now your empire is finished." And with that, the Krovan throne collapsed. Emperor Sava was dragged from his palace, his own people rising against him. The Armada did not fire a final shot, the Krovan destroyed themselves. The galaxy shook. The war was over. But the question remained, what would humanity do now? For weeks, the Armada was silent again. Their ships did not attack, did not move, did not speak. They lingered in the void like giants, watching. Every species held its breath. Would humanity turn its fire on them? Then, the message came. It echoed across every world, every system, in every language. The voice was human, but it carried the weight of something greater. We do not seek conquest. We do not seek thrones. We seek balance. We seek survival. Remember this, when humanity fights, we do not fight for power. We fight for the future. And if the galaxy threatens that future again, we will return. The Armada did not stay. Slowly, silently, they withdrew from Krovan space, vanishing once more into the dark. The forge went quiet. The shadows faded. Humanity disappeared just as suddenly as it had come. But the galaxy was not the same. The Krovan Empire was dust, its survivors scattered. The Alliance trembled, knowing its weakness. And everywhere, the memory of the Armada remained, a memory of steel, fire, and silence. Admiral Kale Draven stood on Earth's soil, looking up at the stars. He was old now, but his eyes still carried fire. "They think we are gone again," he whispered. "Let them believe it. That is our greatest weapon. We vanish, we wait, and when they forget, we remind them." The galaxy would never forget. Because the Armada had shown them the truth, humanity was not a race to fear only when seen. Humanity was far more dangerous when unseen, when silent, when waiting, when preparing. And though the stars looked calm once more, every world knew the silence was only temporary. Because when the shadows returned, the galaxy would tremble again.